All right, let's dive in. Ever stop to think what school would be like without any tests? No grades, no report cards with big red letters? Today, we're going to explore exactly that. We're looking at Montessori assessment, which is this whole philosophy that sees a child's progress not as some score you have to chase, but as a personal journey that needs to be understood. Okay, so let's just lay it all out. On one side, you have the world most of us probably remember, right? Tests, marks, getting ranked against your classmates, a system that's often built on competition. But the Montessori approach, it completely flips that script. It swaps out tests for observation, marks for growth, and competition for genuine earned confidence. It's a totally different way of thinking about what learning is even for. And you gotta understand, this isn't just about trading one method for another. We are talking about two fundamentally different belief systems about the entire point of education and what assessment is supposed to achieve in the first place. So here's the real game changer. Instead of a system that slaps a label on you, you're an A student or you're a C student, Montessori wants to deeply understand where a child is on their own unique path. The whole goal is to get a really clear picture so you can guide them better, not to judge them. Well, this brings up the big question, right? If there are no tests and no grades, how in the world does a teacher know if a kid is actually learning anything? The answer, and this is the absolute heart of the whole method, is the art of observation. And believe me, this is so much more than just, passively watching kids play. Montessori guides are trained to be almost like scientists, really. They're looking for very specific, very meaningful signs of a child's development. So what's on their mental checklist? Well, it's pretty incredible. They're watching for a child's ability to really concentrate, to get lost in a task. They're looking for those little signs of growing independence. How do they handle themselves with other kids? Of course, they're tracking how they master skills and concepts, but just as importantly, they're watching for emotional growth. Are they building confidence, patience, resilience? It's truly about assessing the whole child. And this all feeds into this huge idea, holistic development. It's this view that you can't separate all these different parts of a person. The academic, the emotional, the social, they're all connected, and they're all equally important. The goal is to build this complete 360-degree picture of a child's progress. Okay, so the teachers are observing all this stuff, but where does it all go? It's not like they just keep it all in their heads. No, they use a very specific and systematic set of tools to document everything they're seeing. And this whole process is really layered. It starts with things like checklists and progress charts, to track which materials a child has worked with. Then they add these really detailed personal notes called anecdotal records. They also build up portfolios of the child's actual work over time. And all of this, it leads to these incredibly rich, meaningful parent conferences. Let's just zoom in on those anecdotal records for a second because they are so important. We're talking about small, objective notes that a teacher will just jot down during the day. It could be about a breakthrough a child had with a puzzle, a really kind thing they did for a friend, or just a moment of intense focus. It's these little moments that, when you collect them over time, paint this incredibly vivid picture of a child's journey. All right, Siri is great, but let's actually see what this looks like in a real classroom. We're going to use one of the most famous Montessori materials out there, the pink tower. So just imagine for a second, you're the teacher in the room. You look over and you see a young child completely absorbed. They're carefully taking each of those 10 pink cubes and building a tower, from the biggest cube on the bottom to the smallest on top. They're in their own little world. Now, instead of stepping in or giving a grade, the teacher just quietly makes a little note. And what they're seeing is so much more than a kid playing with blocks. They see concentration, they see fine motor control, and crucially, they see that child physically grasping these huge mathematical ideas about order and dimension. And here's where the magic happens. Later, when talking to the parents, the teacher can share this specific, concrete moment. It's not a grade, it's a story of progress. It's actual evidence of their child's developing focus and mathematical brain. And because of that, assessment becomes this powerful tool for encouragement, not for judgment. So, as we start to wrap this up, let's bring it back to that central idea. This whole system is designed from the ground up to be a mirror for the child, not a scorecard from the teacher. Now look, this isn't some perfect magic system. It has real challenges. This kind of detailed observation, it takes a ton of time and consistency from the teacher. And it definitely requires clear communication to help parents who are used to A's and B's understand what's happening. But the benefits? They can be absolutely profound. It builds this deep, lasting confidence that actually makes a child want to learn, and it keeps the focus exactly where it should be, on their own individual journey. And that brings us right back to this powerful idea. Think about it. An exam is a one-time thing. It gives you a final judgment. But a mirror, that's something you can look into every single day. It just shows you where you are right now, and it lets you see your own progress over time. That is the whole point. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. What would really change, not just in our schools, but in our whole society, if we started to measure learning not just by test scores, but by the growth of a child's confidence, their curiosity, and their genuine love of learning? It's something to think about.